Hey, I'm Adam with the Productivity Academy, and today I want to talk to you about making those first 1 or 2 hires and how you can save yourself a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears. So this is something that is near and dear to me. I remember the first time, or rather one of the first times, working with a virtual assistant, and before I had gone on and hired my own, I was working with a couple partners, and we had talked about some tasks that needed to be done. We were looking at kind of beefing up a few processes, and we needed to put someone in place. And they went ahead and hired someone and said, hey Adam, here you go. We got you a virtual assistant. Go ahead and make it work. And on the surface, it's like, oh great, I've got someone to help. This is wonderful. And it turned into a minor train wreck. So basically what happened was, having this person basically tossed in, it was kind of like pulling the pin on a grenade and tossing it in. Because first of all, it turned out that they weren't a good fit. I hadn't been the one interviewing them. I didn't know that though at the time, of course, that might be a problem. And then on top of that, I didn't have the processes ready to go. I didn't understand myself how the tasks were going to be done precisely. And I had, again, not taken that time to go through and think about taking those processes and what needed to be done and translating them from how we did them into how a virtual assistant could do them. So I think that from that, the upside is I'm now talking today, several years down the line, having made a lot of hires and worked with a lot of different virtual assistants, personal assistants, full-time employees across the world, that hopefully what I'm about to share with you can help you not only save time, but there's a lot of stress involved with this, especially for people who are making those first 1 or 2 kind of critical hires, bringing people on either for 20 plus hours a week or a more full-time employee. So what I want to talk about is a little bit of a pre-hire checklist, and wherever you're seeing this video, there will definitely be a link to where you can get the checklist itself and to go through and do this. But just to, in a few minutes here, to go through what some of the really kind of big picture ideas are and what you should be considering is the following. So one of the big ones, just as a general, if you're just thinking about hiring because it's what you do, then you definitely need to consider this first. What are the pain points in your business right now? Okay, you should be able to write these down and really articulate these out. So write them down. If you don't have, you're just like, oh, things are going along fine and I've got a part-time employee and I don't know, I'm just heard that I'm supposed to have a team. That's probably not the right time to be making a hire. Okay, so this is just a good place to start. Secondly, what area will your new hire be helping you with? Write this down. Again, the more details, the better. And this is partially to show yourself if you understand what the problem is, but also just to get you thinking on this. A lot of times there are, of course, pain points, there are issues, there are areas you need help, but going through this exercise will help you uncover either more or in more detail what that person might be doing. And then what specifically would the new hire be doing? Now that you've got these kind of general ideas and maybe a little bit more specific tasks, but what is it that you want them to do? And how long do you think it will take them? Okay, with this here, use the 80-20 rule. Don't take an hour to do this, take 5 minutes, but be very specific and write down what they'll be doing, just again from a high level. So for example, maybe you want to have someone take videos, edit them, add an intro on YouTube, and write timestamps. Okay, that's good enough to get started. That's not a process, but that's very specific. You now know the type of person you can look for, okay? And then what you can do after you've got these types of ideas written down is to just take a few minutes again and review it and look at it and think about it in terms of, could you just not do any of this? What would happen to you or your business if it just didn't happen? If you didn't have timestamps in your videos, if you didn't have an intro added, if your blog post wasn't formatted, or your email went out a day differently, or just ask yourself. A lot of these, the answer is going to be, well, no, the reason I'm hiring is because I need it to be done. But it's always good to ask yourself, could this just not be done, and would that have any impact? Can you just stop doing it again, or can you delegate it? Okay, is there already someone available? Do you have a partner, a founder? Do you have another employee, maybe a part-time, who could handle this? And then lastly, can it be automated? Okay, if it's copying and moving some files around, are there services that could do it? Maybe you need to take your podcast from a podcasting service to YouTube. There's all sorts of these technical solutions that can be automated. I'm a huge fan of Zapier, and that can do so much for even from your processes to moving media around to copying to managing leads, just all sorts of stuff. So look into that. And who knows, maybe if you're you don't enjoy doing that type of thing, you could make a hire to have somebody look into that stuff for you. So something to consider. Next, what I think is a really good one to do, and this is something that definitely takes some time and consideration, but think about this. Will hiring this person to do the task that you've listed out help generate revenue for the business, or is it going to help you generate more revenue? And if so, how? Okay, the answer to this in my case hasn't always been yes, it will immediately help generate revenue. We've just had things that we say, are tangential, like we're, say, adding a service to members of our mastermind. Well, that immediately has a cost to us, but it has a higher perceived value, and it's going to help increase the value of the membership. Although measuring it may be literally impossible, besides long-term things like looking at lifetime value of customers. So I don't expect the answer, or you don't have to expect the answer to be yes, there's an immediately recognizable way that this is going to impact the revenue, but start thinking that way. Just look at it, can I put someone to work on a revenue generating stream so that they're paying for themselves? And then what can I do from that point to help grow my business, whatever it is we need to be doing. Okay, now we've got those out of the way. Now to start thinking about what you're going to do once you have this person working for you. How are you going to assign tasks to your new hire? Okay, a lot of times we jump into this at the beginning and we don't have a clear path. And this is really important to consider. Do you like email? Do you want to go back and forth via email? Do you want to use Skype all the time? Personally, I hate Skype. It's a tool I still have to use occasionally, but I have some very clear things set out. I don't like back and forth via email, so I don't do that, but I communicate that up front when making the hire. So just consider these things. How are you going to do this? Are you going to use Trello? There's a bunch of things you can do. Next, you have processes for the tasks already laid out. This is really important. And in my personal story there, when I was given a VA to work on a project, I did not have those tasks laid out. I didn't have a Trello board. I didn't have, a really good Google Doc with a lot of guidelines. And that ended up taking up a lot of time and causing a lot of stress on both sides, right? And I think this is also important to consider. It's your stress, but it's also the person you're bringing on board. Do you want to bring someone on and give them these really vague instructions? Of course not, because the results won't be as good and it's going to be harder for them. So if you don't have this stuff already laid out, think about this, how you're going to communicate it to your new hire. It doesn't mean you have to go and create all of this ahead of time, but you really need to have a plan before you get started. So it could be, hey, we're going to spend 1 hour a day for the first week going through your tasks, and I'm going to do a screen recording, and then we're going to upload those somewhere, and you'll have those for reference, and then you need to do those every week. Okay, that's a really high level overview, but that's really actually a good way to get started. The other one, you could have them create it. It depends, again, if they're a specialist. Maybe if they're a video editor, they already know how to do a lot of that. So you could say, okay, I need this video on this day done, whatever, add the intro, do this and that, adjust the audio, and then put it somewhere. And, depending on their level of where they're at, they should be able to handle that, and maybe they could create a process for you. My note on this would be, this can be the biggest time suck for making your first hire or two, so be prepared for that. Okay, if you don't have a really defined task and process, just go into it with your eyes open and understanding that you're going to have to invest some time up front for anywhere from a few days to weeks or months, depending on the person and the position, that you're going to need to work with them to get this going and to be smooth. To follow up, now let's say you've made, or you haven't literally made the hire, but moving down the list of things you would want to do, how are you going to review tasks that your new hire has completed? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be a partner? Are they going to do some sort of reporting? Again, take this from a high level, but understand how you're going to do it. And this could be part of the process. They finish a task and they send you a notification somewhere, via Slack or Trello, or once a week they send you a checklist of all the things they've done, and you can go look. There's a lot of ways to do this, but this is really important to think about ahead of time of how you're going to have this done, instead of spur of the moment, oh, they messed it up and only now I'm finding out, things like that. to follow on to that, I think that something else you should consider is when will you be meeting with your new hire? Where? Is it going to be Zoom? Is it going to be a Google Hangout? Is it Skype? Do they know how to do that? Are you going to do it regularly? Yes. And then, how often? So getting these ahead of time, and maybe you could do something like you might do with a client where you meet more often in the first month, and then you tail it off as needed, but you maybe keep once a week once you get 90 days down the road. Okay, these are just general ideas, but these are things, one, you want to lay out when you hire them, and two, that you want to understand for yourself that this is going to take up your time as well as theirs, and plan appropriately. And then lastly, as far as the main checklist would be, are you willing to train this person? Okay, and the answer should to some degree be yes, or understand again what you're getting into, and not in a bad way. But if you're hiring a specialist, that's great. They can probably handle more, like a video editor, but then you're going to have to pay more. So there's a trade-off there. And understand too, if you're asking someone to train, that you're going to need to pay them for that. So, and then what do you want to train them on after they learn their first set of tasks, maybe after 1 or 2 weeks for a virtual assistant? I always find this really helpful to ask, is there anything else you can do? What else do you like or know how to do? And we've had some really good surprises over the years, asking people what they enjoy doing, what they like, or what they've noticed that they could help on. And just every once in a while asking them about that. And not only does it help build the rapport, but you find out that someone's really good at something and you had no idea, and they want to help you. So it can be a great win-win situation. So those would be the main areas that I think you should go through and answer for yourself. Again, this is something you could do in probably an hour, and I consider it an hour well spent. If you do that, you're probably going to save yourself a lot of pain and suffering instead of making these hires or having a lot of the stress that comes afterwards with not realizing it. So taking the time beforehand will really make it work well, and it's going to be better for that new hire, which again just helps you out. So win all around. I will say one last thing on making a new hire. I highly recommend doing this on a trial basis. If you're doing this, a lot of people hire off of Upwork for a part-time virtual assistant or full-time. If you're doing this, I generally am upfront and would say that this is going to be a 30-day trial. And after that, you'll have a meeting. And you can both come to that meeting and make it clear when you hire them that at this point it's a decision from both of you. And you get to decide, is their work meeting the goals that you set out for them? Did they complete the tasks appropriately? But then also, do they have any input? Are they happy with what's being done? Do they have any recommendations or ideas that might help? And I find that not only helps set the guidelines and keeps you from maybe feeling stuck with somebody, but also likewise it motivates you to make sure that they're getting moving forward within that 30 days and they have what they need. So I hope that this is helpful for you. Again, if you want, you can grab the kind of checklist or the download for this, and the link should be on the page here. So just grab that and make sure you go through this before you make these hires. Again, like I said, it might take an hour. If you really want to kind of dive deep, or you need to do some more like making the processes, it might take longer. But doing this ahead of time will save you time, if not the same amount of time, but way more down the road. As well as make the experience better, lower your stress, and give you a lot better results from the hires that you do make.